Try this one on for size. A media tycoon with political ambitions, no qualms about fake news, and a panache for the sensationalism. Sounds like the plot of a modern-day political drama, am I right? I'm actually referring to none other than William Randolph Hearst, though, the trailblazing newspaper magnate and media tycoon of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A man who held so much power and sway over the media at the time that he could change popular opinion with one single news article. Now, Hearst's life was nothing less than remarkable, and it makes for one hell of a good story, filled with power, prestige, and of course, a whole lot of scandal. In fact, Hearst's life reads pretty much like a movie, and that's eventually what it became. A loosely based version of it, of course. You might have heard of it. It's a classic called Citizen Kane, and stars a young Orson Welles. And the movie covers a lot of his story, the same way we do here on Bay Area Babylon. From sensationalized newspaper stories to questionable business practices to secret love affairs, we're going to explore Hearst's legacy as well as visit the family mausoleum right here at the Cypress Memorial Park, just a few miles south of San Francisco. So grab your monocles and hold on to your top hats, because this is William Randolph Hearst's story. Born smack dab in the middle of the American Civil War, William Randolph Hearst, he inherited a hard knack for the cunning from his father, George Hearst. Now his father, he was a self-made man, one who climbed the ladder from Missouri mining worker to mining owner. Then he graduated on to rancher, then to California state senator, and from there, a millionaire. But if you think that George Hearst was a hustler, let me tell you, the apple didn't far fall from the tree, because the son, William Randolph, his journey to becoming a media mogul began when he attended Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There, Hearst's publishing skills began to take shape as he worked for the world's oldest continuously published humor magazine, the Harvard Lampoon. But here's the skinny, folks. William Randolph never graduated from Harvard. Rather, according to legend, he was expelled for mailing several of his professors chamber pots, or thunder jugs as they were called back in the day. And on the bottom of each of the chamber pots was an illustrated, colorful version of his rendition of that professor's face. Now, there are some accounts stating that some of these pots were actually filled when he sent them to these professors, but that was never actually confirmed. Talk about your shitty present. But filled or not, yeah, that's a pretty direct way of letting your teachers know they suck. Anyways, moving on. But to everyone's surprise, William's expulsion turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. From Harvard reject to media mogul, Hearst got his first newspaper gig thanks to dear old dad's connections. William joined the New York World newspaper in 1886, and it was there he learned the ropes of the typing trade under the tutelage of the current media magnate at the time, a man named Joseph Pulitzer. And then, a year later, feeling ready to roll, running his own newspaper, Hearst convinced dear old Pops to hand him the reins of the struggling publication called the San Francisco Examiner, and luckily for him, he did. And it was with this position he began to rise to his media megastardom. He took a page out of his old pal Pulitzer's playbook, using attention-grabbing headlines, scandalous stories, and colorful graphic illustrations that even the most reluctant of readers could understand. And look out, if the facts written in the story weren't spicy enough for Hearst, he just had his team, print whatever they had to do to sell newspapers, truthful or not. Hungry for more power and prestige, Hearst set his sights on Pulitzer's territory, taking over the East Coast, and that's when he snatched up the New York-based newspaper called The Morning Journal for a mere $150,000. Let me tell you, folks, back in 1895, that was a screaming hot deal. And that's pretty much how the ensuing circulation war between Hearst's Morning Journal and Pulitzer's World newspaper came to happen. But then in 1889, the battle reached fever pitch during the Spanish-American War, where both media moguls vied for the public's attention and nearly bankrupted themselves in the process. See, Hearst seized the opportunity to boost his paper sales by fervently supporting the Cuban insurgents. And the headlines of his papers were filled with some pretty inflammatory content that no doubt it offended the Spanish and contributed to fueling the flames between the US and Spain, which was a very tense situation at the time, to say the least. But then, after a US ship blew up in a Havana harbor, Hearst's newspaper stoked public outrage, blaming the explosion on Spain without having any proof that they did it. And while it's still debated whether Hearst's actions and reporting actually caused the Spanish-American War, he's still very much considered to have been a major factor in the events that led up to the Spanish-American War. And despite being a progressive Democrat, Hearst played the political field like a seasoned pro, from endorsing radical candidates to running for president himself in 1904. The dude pretty much danced to his own political beat, but whatever he was campaigning for at the time, his readers were sure to know about it and read about it in healthy doses in his many publications that included titles like Harper's Bazaar, Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, and the San Francisco Examiner, just to name a few. Then in 1903, Hearst tied the knot with a woman named Millicent Wilson, but unfortunately for Millicent, Hearst's heart, well, it belonged to someone else. And her name was Marion Davies. And she happened to be a Hollywood actress and showgirl at the time. And over the years of their scandalous love affair, coupled with a rocky political journey, well, what can I say? This painted Hearst as a pretty complex character. Then in 1919, with his pockets overflowing, Hearst built his dream castle along the California coast, just 200 miles south of here. It was a lavish estate called La Cuesta Encantada, or more commonly known as Hearst Castle, or San Simeon. And sure enough, just like that, we are down here, down in San Simeon, California, to take a tour of Randolph Hearst's castle. This is definitely a detour from our previously scheduled video of Randolph Hearst's grave, so we're going to be taking a look at the infamous San Simeon. Now, I've been here a few times before, and it's always just so worth it to come. You know, it's a little bit out of the way, but it's on this beautiful coast, but if you're down here, definitely check it out because it is so unique. It's awesome. Let's go take a look.
The largest private zoo in America, filled with exotic animals from all over the world. You may see birds of tawny animals that resemble mountain goats. They are known as Audats, original herd, still roaming these hills and mingling with the cattle. Originally, this land was home to Native Americans of the Chumash and Salinan peoples, who lived there for over 9,000 years. It was claimed by Spain after 1769, and then settled by California cattle ranchers during a brief period of Mexican ownership. California joined the United States in 1850, soon after gold was discovered. George Hearst bought 3 ranchos and continued to run cattle on the hilly expanses above the Pacific. And 150 years later, this is still a family cattle ranch. The Hearst Corporation runs over 2,000 head of grass-fed beef on these hills today, largely black and red Angus. The cattle graze much as they always have, and depending on the season, you may see them along the hillsides.
It's just one of the small cottages, and this is the hillside so carefully. Each of these is used their name for their view. This one goes by the name of Casa del Sol, and it receives its name because of its views of its setting sun. William Randolph Hearst, California, like many of you. He was born a child to George and Phoebe Apperson Hearst. George was a Missouri farmer. only child, the thing he seemed to want most was a failing newspaper. George will gift his failing newspaper, the San Francisco Examiner, to his son William. It's not a big deal. He won it in a poker game after all. And William will turn the newspaper around, becoming the media mogul with a 15 million circulation, 28 newspapers, numerous magazines, many of which we currently have today, like Elle, Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, Harper's Bazaar, Town and Country, Better Homes, oh, the list goes on. He branches out to radio, motion picture production, and even cartoon syndication. You might be familiar with some of his earlier cartoons, like Blondie, Betty Boop, Beetle Bailey, all of these. Popeye, Felix the Cat, and even Mickey Mouse. He loves the theater. It's how he meets his wife, Millicent. She's a dancer, and they're going to marry in 1903. They have 5 kids, all boys. The 2 youngest are twins, born in 1915. Those 5 boys are going to marry a total of 16 times. But they only bring them 15 grandchildren. Did you do the math? They married more than they made babies. And if those of you who are my age, well, you're probably very familiar with the Patty Hearst story. She is one of the 15 grandchildren. I did say he loved the theater. He keeps going back, and right around the same year that those twins are born, he's going to meet another young dancer, a Ziegfeld Follies dancer that he follows for. Her name is Marion Davies. And while he and his wife Millicent will never divorce, she's no fool, she's not granting a divorce, he will live his days out with Marion. He used to heat it to 75 degrees. That's not very warm. That really wasn't for his guests as much as it was for the retraction of the marble against the certainty. And yes, we can swim, but the we part gets a little tricky. It's always a couple of it. You see that there? That's a modern ladder. That suggests we can swim. Yeah, but if our last name is William, you know, that's a really good question, and there's kind of a trick answer to that as well. Looks like it's the same depth all the way across, doesn't it? Yeah, well, that's an optical illusion. It's actually 3.5 feet deep, about a meter on the shallow end, and 10 feet deep, about 3 meters on the deeper end. And the optical illusion making it look like it's about the same depth all the way across is achieved by the refraction of light hitting the whole pool. Another thing that refraction of light of light accomplishes is it makes the water look blue against the marble, doesn't it? This is the marble that's in the pool. Both the colors from the marble and from the sky with the light in the water like that. It's fresh out spring water going right through the water. You know, this is the first thing that I have the ground and the stuff like because at the height of their acquisitions of land, they own 250,000 acres. Some of you might be looking off into the distance over there. You see a grayish peak out there? About 35 miles out as a crow flies. It's grayish because it's the furthest down our eye you can see. That is Hunapara Peak. At the height of their acquisitions, they own past the base of Hunapara Peak. He used to go horseback riding in those hills, sometimes even with a man named Roy Rogers. He'd make them sing Tumbleweed, Tumbleweed over and over again on the birthday because it was his favorite song. I did tell you there were 3 versions of the pool, and they kept getting progressively larger. The second version was 1928. It was roughly the size of the center oval portion there. You know, that's the same year they might have been thinking about the fact that the guest list is becoming far more vast than that of his immediate family. His was Marion Davies now, the movie star. And so lots of Hollywood elites will be coming to visit. Book authors, investors, top-notch athletes, politicians. He's a media mogul, so naturally, if you're interested, you'll be invited up. Yes, we'll be going inside. We're going to go up those stairs as well, indeed. Yes, we will.
Soccer.
Who said pickleball? Okay, yeah, I didn't hear you say that, but I believe you. In your head, you were saying pickleball. Do you play?
This place is wild.
Do you play?
Beautiful.
No, so you don't have gear, right? No, because you don't play. Anybody here play? you have gear. You know why? Because you play. And if somebody wanted to learn to play, you'd probably say, I have an extra paddle. You can come play with us. Well, it was the same way with swimming in the 1920s. It was just becoming a fast-growing sport. Mr. Hearst wants people to do it so badly. Even look at the pool that they've designed. No, silly, Las Vegas. She's Egyptian. And her name is Sekhmet. She's the oldest relic on the hilltop, just when you thought it was named or winged. And she's both the daughter and the fierce and bloodthirsty protector of the sun god Ra, as is depicted by the sun disk on her head. Only this one closest to me still carries her disc. She's also missing some other stuff, but I'd say at her age she's entitled. She's ranging from 3,200 years old, thank you, all the way to 3,600 years old. Have you ever heard the phrase old as Moses? She's older. Julia Morgan will utilize the lotus blossom motif in the design styles in the granite and the tiles and the risers and the stairs. She does this because lotus in Egypt is a symbol of sun, rebirth, and creation. You might notice she uses a tremendous amount of yellow and blue in her tile work. Yellow is rejuvenating and renewing, and blue is peace and tranquility. They are aspiring to achieve both of these elements on the hilltop. Now, Mr. Hearst's keen interest in this artwork, it's fostered by his mother, Phoebe. She's not just a school teacher who's married a gold miner, but with that combination and only one child, you're going to educate that child any way you choose. She traveled with him throughout Europe, an 18-month excursion when he's only 10 years old, again when he's 16. And when he's 10, she telegrams his father, 1873. The telegram reads, poor old chap, young Willie. He got the mania for collecting antiques. He got it from her. And he'll continue to collect, and we'll experience some of that. Now, Sekhmet, she's carved of diorite. Anybody know anything hard enough to carve into diorite?
Yeah.
Diamonds, why not? You know, long before they were a girl's best friend, they may have been an Egyptian sculptor's best friend. And the other mineral is a natural forming mineral that occurs over time. You see a lot of smatterings of a pinkish brown hue. Most heavily noticed in the trail going through her leg. It's not a repair. These are fragments of feldspar. It's a natural forming mineral that occurs over time. Now, his interest specifically in this type of artwork that sparked later on in his life, 1922. They'll call it Egyptomania. What sparked that? Anybody know in 1922? Yeah, King Tut's tomb is discovered. He will not be left out in the cold on that one. I mean, she is.
Hearst and Davies were notorious for these extravagant, raging parties that they threw at San Simeon. Elaborate decorations, costumes, entertainment were often tailored to fit the chosen theme of that party. However, Hearst had some very strict party rules. And depending on the guest, you just might be limited on your alcohol intake. And after dinner, well, you were pretty much forced to watch a movie, whichever one Hearst wanted you to. Most of them starred Marion Davis, of course. Let's make no mistake about it. William Randolph Hearst was both feared and respected by many people. Guests at parties included Winston Churchill, Calvin Coolidge, Charlie Chaplin, Gary Cooper, Greta Garbo, the Marx Brothers, Cary Grant, and so many other political and Hollywood celebrities and political figures and people of the day.
What else do you want me to pull into the story? You know, a lot of people think that's a scepter. I'll pull that in too.
Oh, okay.
You got it. I love that you guys are coming up with stuff. Anybody else? You know, they're making our story here. Go ahead. The ceiling? Yeah. We'll pull that in. All right, so, anybody get the Harry Potter vibe in here? Yeah, you know, the research team for the set designers for those movies visited us looking for design ideas. Took lots of photos in here. They went to many castles. It's just kind of fun. We were one of them. And Mr. Hearst, however, he preferred a simple dining style. You might have noticed the casual use of the condiment bowl. It's the same pattern as his mother's camping china. Your mom's camping china look like this? Your mom have camping china? You're looking at stainless. You know, he had one of the largest silver collections in the world. And there's 10 pounds of it in a ceremonial vase made in Dublin. A lot of people think it's a scepter, but then it might look like it's misplaced. Like, what's it doing here in the dining room? Julia Morgan is also the interior designer. She does everything with purpose. She ties it in beautifully to the tapestry from the 16th century, where you've got Nebuchadnezzar over here holding a scepter, announcing, I'm a king, I'm an individual of royalty. Over here, reading scrolls from the podium, most likely is French carom billiards. Patricia Lake, Marion Davies' niece, was asked if Mr. Hearst played billiards, and she said, yes, he was quite good. A lot of the men and women came in here. We played together. That is very progressive for that to be taking place during a time period when that's not what was taking place. The progressive nature's adopted from the same place as the art collecting. His mother, Phoebe, you know, she's not just a school teacher who's married a gold miner. She's a suffragette. She starts programs we still have in our school systems today, like PTA, kindergarten, many of the first libraries. She's the first female regent at Berkeley. Some of you may recall I mentioned Julia Morgan's civil engineering degree was Berkeley. Oh, with all these Berkeley connections, the property was offered to Berkeley. And they said, we'd love to take the artwork. We can't maintain the structures and the land. J. Paul Getty visited enough in Mr. Hearst's day, and he made a lowball offer. So he's refused. Finally, the state of California comes through with an incredibly significant 15-year tax break in excess of the value of the property, an offer they felt they couldn't and shouldn't refuse. Think about it. They can still schedule swims, weddings, and birthday parties. I've worked some of those events, and they don't have to pay for this, the very expensive part to maintain. So the state of California has this top 127 acres and the visitor center down below. We maintain the windy road for your arrival. Don't feel sorry for them, I promise they're doing fine. On behalf of the Hearst Castle, my friend William and myself, my name is Donnell. We thank you for joining us on your grandparents' tour. The chariot waits. Thank you.
But eventually, Hearst's personal life added more fuel to the tabloid fire when rumors circulated about a secret love child of his named Patricia Clark, who was born from an affair that he had with Marion Davies. While officially introduced as Davies' niece, Patricia Lake claimed on her deathbed that she was indeed Hearst's biological daughter, but sadly we'll never know the truth because it remained shrouded in mystery here in the Bay Area. William Randolph Hearst again took some heavy hits, especially as the 1930s rolled in, because there he found himself at odds with the working class readers. High taxes on his newspapers and political disagreements, well, that led to public scorn and a shit ton of blowback from the people who read his publications, or should I say, were no longer reading his publications. He even got into some hot water after speaking out against FDR's New Deal proposition, and to make things worse, the public started to boycott his publications, cutting him off from those incoming greenbacks he was used to collecting. Even the vastness of his media empire couldn't shield him from financial setbacks. And during the 30s, his company lost money like crazy, so much that he was even forced to sell a lot of his expansive art collection and several of his California properties. He even had to borrow $1 million from Marion Davies so he could continue living at San Simeon. But then came World War II, and Hearst's publication business boomed once again, skyrocketing his fortune past what he previously had. And then the movie happened. Ironically, the immortalization of Hearst's legacy came from an unexpected source, and that being the silver screen. Actor-director Orson Welles' Citizen Kane depicted a media mogul eerily similar to William Randolph Hearst, and that seriously pissed off the aging tycoon. In one last-ditch effort to eliminate the film from getting out, Hearst tried to bury it, banning his newspapers from covering the story and attempting to buy and destroy the negatives. This, all despite never even having seen the actual movie. Now, as we all know, Citizen Kane went on to win an Oscar and is widely regarded as one of the greatest films in cinema history. In 1951, William Randolph Hearst passed away, leaving behind a powerful, long-standing legacy. In 2020, Forbes magazine recognized the Hearst family as one of America's wealthiest, estimating their net worth at $21 billion. The Hearst Corporation, which was established by William Randolph Hearst in 1887, well, they still hold ownership over publications like Harper's Bazaar, Esquire, and the San Francisco Chronicle. In addition to that, 260 other print publications. And if that wasn't enough, the Hearsts have skin in the game over on the television front as well, with networks like ESPN, Lifetime, and A&E. Carrying on the family legacy, William Hearst's 5 sons followed in their father's footsteps. And today, William Randolph Hearst III serves as the chairman of the Hearst Corporation. That's the tale of William Randolph Hearst, one of the many tales of tragedy and triumph here in this Bay Area Babylon. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Please be sure to stick around for a book recommendation afterwards. While you're at it, hit that like and subscribe button down below. I sure would appreciate it. We'll see you next time here on Bay Area Babylon. Let me tell you something, friends. It ain't easy. It's not easy at all to cover all the details about a giant, like a legend like William Randolph Hearst in just one episode of Bay Area Babylon. So if you're still interested and itching to want to know more about the world's original megabucks media tycoon, then rest easy, my friend, because I've got you covered. Get ready to deep dive into the insanely complicated world of William Randolph Hearst with The Chief by author David Nassau. This heavily researched biography pulls back the curtain on the man who built the Hearst media empire from the ground up. And if you like some, drama sprinkled in there with your nonfiction, then this book is for you, my friend, because this isn't your typical William Randolph Hearst could do no wrong story. Not at all. It takes a balanced approach and highlights both Hearst's triumphs as well as his missteps along the way as he built said empire. But what really sets The Chief apart is its in-depth exploration of Hearst's personal life, from his complicated relationship with old mom and dad to his tangled web of romance involving his wife and, his mistress. You'll get a front row seat to all the drama that unfolded behind the scenes in Hearst's life. But it's not just about his personal life either. This book also deep dives into its groundbreaking work in the newspaper and publishing industry, as well as Hollywood. And let's not forget about Hearst's crusade to outlaw marijuana. Like that worked. So brace yourself though, because by the time you're done reading this book, your faith in the press might be shaken to its core. If it's not already. Now don't let the hefty page count here scare you off, friend. It's a long one, but trust me, the stories about WRH carry the reader through his life and times in a snap. So whether you love him or you hate him or you just don't really care, check this book out because it's a wild ride through the life and times of one of history's most fascinating and complicated figures. So get out to your public library and crack open a copy of David Nassau's The Chief. And if your library doesn't carry this title, talk to the librarian about getting an ILL, which is basically library jargon for interlibrary loan and borrowing it from a different library system without charging you a penny. I mean, what a deal. So until next time, my friends, keep reading, keep being weird, because I'm gonna be, and we'll see you down the road.